computer, recording, and then I gotta pin me. And then we'll get that's good. All right, just a few more minutes to get going. Can't see, makes everything better. All right, everyone's starting to pop on. This is great. What else do you have to do at 2 o'clock on what's today? Wednesday. Hang out with us, make some art. All right, so I thought what I would do to get today started and the juices flowing is share a piece with you that I think I emailed you about a couple times about what I wanted to kind of introduce a different sort of a substrate and kind of part of the monthly challenge about the 3D. And it kind of goes back to probably 2007 or 8. My husband, Jerry, if you haven't figured it out yet, loves to challenge me. And he's always thinking outside the box. He's always got some other idea that's gonna, make the world a better place. He's a PhD in chemistry, and so whatever, it's always some idea. So anyway, this one idea he had is he could see that I really enjoyed doing 3D, and I wanted to make sculptures and do different things. And I was getting better with my hot wire tools and doing the sculpting with the polystyrene, much like you see Catherine England or Sherry Warner Hunter do. But he, of course, again, outside the box, thinks that there's another way it could be done. And so he presents me with a really cheap pool toy that is the shape of a dolphin. And I was like, no way, can't be done, can't be done. Well, that's the worst thing you can say to my husband is it can't be done, because then it's on a mission and it's going to be done. And so it was, and you guys saw a picture of it in the monthly challenge. And so basically what that piece was he must have gone online or the dollar store. I don't remember where he got it. He bought this dolphin and it was really flimsy and cheap. And I said, you can't put concrete on it. It's going to just completely collapse. And he's like, no, there's got to be a way that we can like slowly build it up. So basically it is built up by the way of blown up, obviously, to give it some kind of shape. And then we added really light mesh and plaster of Paris, so that it could be almost like a paper mache in the beginning. And that way it would have a shape and it would harden enough that then I could add the mesh. And I actually like to work in my sculptures. Most of mine are thin set. I don't always use concrete. Sometimes I do, but I have found that the thin set holds up as well. And we'll discuss that in a few minutes. On top of, as you can see, the dolphin has lasted whatever that is now, 12, 13 years. And it's been outside all the time. We have some rain here, we have lots of sun. So we have ways that things could still, decompose or fall apart, and it has not. So we are in talks, that'd be Jerry and I, the we, of creating a course using blow up toys. And it's so far out of the like what you're supposed to do box, of course, like Sherry Warner Hunter and Catherine will probably poo-poo me. And I can just show you that it actually did work. And so, it's sometimes it's important to like think outside the box, take some chances, do some experiments, obviously not on someone else's dime, but if you can figure something like that out and it can work, it could be really great. So that leads me up to the next thing that Jerry suggested that I try. So many of you probably know, or maybe remember that in 2017, at the time, we had the largest fire here in the state of California. That has obviously been surpassed now. So the Thomas Fire was in December of 2017. And it went 40 miles from a town that's 40 miles north or east of here. I mean, south or east of here, however you want to look at it. And it came all the way to Santa Barbara. And on December 16th, it was supposed to burn the entire town of Montecito down. The winds were not in our favor. It was just all very, very, very bad. But we had 8,400 firefighters here, and there was literally a fire crew at every home that was being threatened. And the winds did die that day just enough that the town did not burn down. So Oprah and Harry and everybody are safe that day. So fast forward to January 9th, and we were here actually filming. I had David Jarvin in here. We were filming a course, and David needed to get on the road by whatever it was, 11 o'clock on the 10th in the morning. And I think those are the dates. I can't exactly remember. Anyway, we knew it was going to rain. We went out to dinner that night. We talked about it. We're like, yeah, it's probably going to dump a lot of rain. It looks pretty bad, but they're evacuating some people from these fire areas. But it shouldn't be more than most of the rain that we have here. Well, as you all know, that's not what happened. The rain came down so hard for a certain period of time in one area, and boulders and mudslides and terrible, terrible things happened because of the fire, because the fire had left the ground so fragile, and the ash was like wax when the water hit it, and the trees were not rooted really anymore because they burned so much that boulders the size of my house went flying down into the creek beds. And so anyone that lived near the creek, there's lots of stories of horrific, survivors, and then the ones that didn't. So it leads me up to, I went to a benefit dinner there were 23 people that passed away, and many of them, it split literally families in half. Like a mom and a daughter survived, and the husband and the son did not. And that happened on more than one occasion of the amount of people that passed away. And so at this benefit dinner, I heard a man tell a story, and the man was one of the fire captains here in Santa Barbara, and he was the public service announcement guy. Like, he came on every day during the fire and during the after the mudslide, because our freeway was shut down for 2 weeks, to give us updates, tell us what was happening, and every other department that had to give us these updates. So his name was Dave Zanaboni, and he is a really, really, really cool guy. But while he was at this benefit, he told the story of so the mudslide happened about 3:34 in the morning, and he got into his SUV and he hauled down from Santa Barbara to Montecito, which is about a 10-minute drive. And he got off the freeway, and where he got off the freeway, if he went left, he was going right into where the mudslide, pretty much was coming down. If he turned right, he would have gone to the ocean. So he's driving towards the mountains. He looked like he was going to drive towards the mountains. He could see some of the chaos, but then he looked to the right and he saw there's some train tracks just on the, about 200 feet from where he was about to turn right. And he saw two people looking down, and they were, huddled together, and he just couldn't figure out why two people would be standing there looking down. It was very strange. So he turned to the right, and what he did is he came upon a little boy, 6 years old, who had died. And he had been washed away from his home, and they also lost his father. His sister has never been found, who's 2 years old, and his grandfather. And so his mother only survived because she was doing the graveyard shift at Vaughn's, stocking the supermarket with her sister. And they all lived in the small house on a creek bed in Montecito. So his name was Pasta. And so Dave tells the story of how Pasta, he came and scooped up Pasta, and he held Pasta in a, they have those fire retardant shirts that he had one in the back of his truck. So he just wrapped Pasta up in that and held him for an hour until the coroners came. And this is all while the mudslide is at its absolute worst. So the story is so heroic. It is so sad. It is so insane. And when I heard it, I had spent the first 2 weeks after the mudslide, this was probably a month after the mudslide when I heard the story, spent 2 weeks making a piece that many of you have seen. It's my Facebook profile, and it's called Tethered. And it's made with found objects, and it has 23 pieces of gold in it from everyone that passed away in the mudslide. And that night, I went up to him after the benefit and I said, you have to have my piece of art. You have to have it. I can't keep it here. I know what energy it holds, and you did something so heroic that you never should have had to do. And so can I give this to you? And he said, yes. And so he came to the studio, and I picked it up. We took a picture together, and he's such a great, great guy. But that wasn't the end of the story. So after that, Jerry said, why don't you, because then it became all about memorials. People wanted to do a park for a memorial, make a piece for the memorials. It all became, how can we memorialize these people in our small town? And Jerry said, why don't you mosaic a fire coat And of course, I'm like, how, what, where, like, what are you talking about? And he goes, ask Dave, maybe Dave has one. So then I go into my old costuming days when I worked in the movies and television, and I know what a turnout coat is, and I used them all the time and dressed actors and whatever in them. But this guy's a real fireman, and this is like a real story. How am I supposed to like get a turnout coat? And he said, well, just ask him. And so I said, Dave, I got this weird request. You have an old turnout coat you don't need. And if it could have been his, it would be great because he's like a size 38. He's not much bigger than me. And I didn't want a big one. And he's like, sure. And so he brought me his turnout coat. And this was in probably April of 2018. And so he brought me the turnout coat, and then it became my job to figure out, very much outside the box, no online courses, not doing anything Sherry Warner Hunter's done or Catherine's done, but to figure out how to make this coat structurally sound enough that I could do some kind of mesh and thin set on it and then mosaic it. So the coat is called The Hug. And so you can see it here. I'm gonna see if I can give you guys, oh, you want to see it really. I gotta change cameras. I have it all set up here and I totally forgot because I'm all involved in the story. So that's The Hug. And so it is very raw right now. It's very much 3 years old, or yeah, 3 years old. And it is, you can still see the turnout coat here. I'm trying to save the metal pieces. Down here is the belt that is got masking tape on it. And it did start with plaster of Paris. So I brought it in here to show you guys. It's at another stage now of where I'm going to be using some cloth and thin set to start to smooth some of this out. I'm trying to carve out time in my life to get this back up and going, but just to let you know, as far as materials and when you create things like this has sat outside in our backyard, which is attached to our outdoor studio if you've never been here, and it has survived. So it hasn't crumbled, it hasn't fallen apart, it still has chicken wire inside, which is how it all started. It has chicken wire in the arms that'll never probably come out. And otherwise it is straight thin set and mesh, and you can still see it. And like I said, it's super raw, but this will all be mosaicked. So I'm not worried about how perfect my smooth, substrate is, because it's going to be mosaicked. And it's most likely going to be mosaicked, hopefully, by many of the survivors of the mudslide. And I'm glad that we are 4 years out from it, because I think it's important that people needed to heal. And I didn't need to feel like I was exposing them or trying to, sell some kind of story like Ellen did, but not a fan. But anyway, this is just to give you guys a little demonstration. I thought I'd quickly show you, and then you guys can ask me any questions you like. But I thought I'd quickly show you sort of the process of what's going to happen next. And if you have taken Carla Duderlow's 2D class, then you will know that this is sort of what she does, but she's obviously doing it on an undulating thing to kind of make a undulating substrate sort of thing, and then mosaic on it. This is undulating, obviously, but it's also this more of a 3D object. So what I have here is slurry. So it's always good when you're going to do this type of work to kind of wet your dry concrete, because then it gives this thing more of a reason to grab on. And I think I've said this before, and I'll say it again and again and again, but thin set loves thin set. So I'm just going to show you guys a couple strips of what's going to happen right here. So I'm just adding slurry, and all the slurry is, and you can see this if you did Karen Kingsbury's course as well. Slurry is just really watered down thin set, and using a paintbrush, obviously, to get it on. So here we are. All right, so I'm not sure if that's, we'll see how it goes. I may have to add more. So now I have this muslin that is, muslin. If you know what that is, I don't have to tell you. So I'm just gonna stick it in this thin set, which is a little thicker than the slurry, and just get it good and covered. This is where you gotta love to get messy. So you just kind of want to, you know, really clear it off, but really try and get as much on as you can. And so we will get a little more off. I think I should have probably made them a little bit thinner. If they overlapped, maybe. All right, we'll clean that up. So with Carla's piece, yeah, these probably should be a little bit thinner, but I wasn't sure what I was going to really demonstrate to you guys. But with Carla, she wants the wrinkles to happen, and for me, I don't. So what I'm going to do is really, but it's so wonderful to have something that can really work around the shape of the coat. And otherwise, trying to do another layer of just like alkali resistant fiberglass mesh and this fabric would not hold up. So remember, after this goes on, this is going to give me that little bit more smoother sort of texture. And then I can take my brush and come back over, because of course you don't want the tessera to really have to struggle to find a flat spot. You don't want bumps. You can always avoid those things, but having it be able to like go over the shoulder like that and dip in under the arm, there's really no other way that I could see doing this. And I've talked to Catherine England about it, who I respect a lot when it comes to the concrete sculptures like this. And she and I talked a lot about doing it this way. So I'll show you guys just one more, because you don't need to sit here and watch me do this. But I just figured if we were talking about doing 3D sculptures that could be unconventional, then this is one way that you could do it. Just get this, and this is just what do you call it? Thin set, the Home Depot store-bought Versabond, fortified, of course. And I didn't add the admix to this because, again, it's going to be really strong once I put I'll use really good thin set to do the mosaic part. And then it'll be obviously epoxy grouted, even if it's going to have, I assume it's going to have some found objects on it. So it may be a challenge, but it'll be worth it if people want to bring things that mean something to them. But again, we don't know where this is going to live. A lot of people ask me where it will live. And there are some memorial parks around Montecito that are like, one is dedicated to Pasta and his family. And there's other different ways that people have been memorialized. But so this just gives you a quick little demonstration. I'll smooth it out again because you can see, can you see that? Yeah, it's just kind of bumpy. Sorry, I can't, my hands are dirty. I don't have an assistant today to focus. I'll give you guys a little more close up in a second. And that's the only issue too with the muslin. You want to try, I tried to get as much of the threads off as possible. All right, so that's the story on the special piece, the special project. It's kind of coming back to life, should my schedule allow for it. And that is that. So here, before we go away, I'll give you guys a little more of a kind of a close up so you can sort of see how it's got a few bumps in it, but I don't even care. That stuff I can always work out. You can always use a rasp as well, or a file. If you ever get like bumps or stuff and you're working in concrete, there's always ways to fix it. Concrete, you know, you have to be the boss of the concrete. Don't let it boss you around. All right, so let's do this. Does anyone have any questions about all that? Nobody has a question. Wow.
How are you going to hang
Great.
it?
No questions. Yeah, Martha.
You said you used chicken wire. Was that?
I don't hear you.
Oh,
Hold on. Go ahead.
sorry. You said you used chicken wire?
chicken wire was put inside just to hold the structure up. There was no other way. So there's a big like piece of it in the center that kept it upright. And then there's a roll of it in each arm. And so basically I started with a coat on the table. And then I took the chicken wire, wrapped it around to kind of get a body size, closed up the coat, and then took the chicken wire and did the same thing in the arms. And because it was really important to create the hug, I didn't want it to just be sitting there as like, you know, just a coat. I wanted it to have that position. And so that's why it's it looks like that. And that's the first part. And then there's other things probably stuffed in there. There's like some foam right here that's been in there for 3 years. So I did whatever I could. It was this part of it I'm not as concerned about, as long as it got to the shape I wanted. I just really wanted to, once it's fully concreted and it looks right, essentially I could take the coat out because, well, I couldn't take the coat out, but I could take the wire out, but I won't. It's all probably just going to, if it is going to become a public piece, this will have to get closed off on top, and the bottom, or at least the bottom, will have to get closed off, and it'll have to go on a proper stand. So that much hasn't quite been thought out yet, but again, it's on my schedule. It's not a commission. It's not somebody else's idea. So I'm taking my time with it, and it's a story that's never going to go away. It's part of our history now. So any other questions?
I do.
Yeah.
So if you were going to put it on a stand, I guess you do that before you're going to finish off the bottom. How do you connect the stand?
Again, it's going to have to be like figured out sort of as we go along, but it'll probably become like a concrete sort of block on the bottom, and then it'll have to be attached somehow to it, and either concreted or bolted. So I'm not too worried about that part yet. I more want to get it to a place where it's completely thin set is done, and we can move forward with the mosaic part of it. So
I have a question.
uh-huh.
I'm wondering how you'll decide how to actually mosaic it with all the different, do you draw that out in advance? I'm struggling with that myself on the 3-dimensional stuff. So I wondered if you could give some thoughts.
Well, in the beginning, and what I'll probably still do is, it's kind of like, I don't want it to be like rising from the ashes. I don't want anything dark about it. So I had envisioned, and it may have like stained glass as sort of the tessera, and do like a garden. So it'll sort of have grass on the bottom, and it'll come up with these flowers, and then be blue skies and clouds or whatever along the top. So it'll have sort of a theme to it. And then hopefully these people can come in and put some, I don't expect people to come here and do an hour mosaic, but if they want to just be part of it and add something special to it that, would then be part of the story. So that is how I've always envisioned it. And I'm not sure if anything else will come to my mind to change it. But for right now, it needs to be something that people can, feel good about and feel hope. And so that's sort of my idea.
So you themed it then, and then you would think about those colors that you would need in the theme, or do you do that for all of your 3-dimensional things?
Well,
like even your rooster or whatever. I think I watched one of your shows that you did a rooster 3-dimensional with your chicken wire. But I'm struggling on how to get the tessera onto the 3-dimensional thing. Like, how do I decide colors? And
well, deciding colors and design, and whether it's 3D or 2D, it doesn't matter. It's just more about, what your goal is. Not any of those chickens have ever been mosaicked. I have about 6 of them that are like sprinkled over the property that are all still concrete. But if I were, it could either be something that would be, super fun with piqué ossillette and do lots of broken china and different plates and found objects, or, something more traditional, like, stained glass and just do it so it looks like a chicken. But it's the design has to just kind of percolate and come from whatever you see. The dolphin, I wanted to stay in those blue colors, and then I wanted to add the swirl of the mirror. So it just had something that kind of broke up the two colors, because there was no way they were gonna like gradate next to each other. One's like a darker purpley blue and one's a turquoisey blue. So there needed to be something that broke it up. So there's a strip of a mirror that kind of does a swirl on both ends, and that's how those got broken up. So it really is something that, you know, as an artist, it just kind of percolates from within and then execute it. And I don't really get the chance too often to work on my own pieces. So there's a lot of ideas that are kind of backlogged in my brain of what I want to work on. And this one has always had that sort of hope feeling. And I'm not, you know, super attached to it. Like if something better came along, or of course, Jerry's going to come up with some other idea, then we'll discuss it and see if it's going to be something else. But for right now, the fact that it can be finished and get to a place where we can start to talk about the mosaic, and if it's going to go somewhere, then have to talk about the stability of it. But many people have been asking here in Santa Barbara a lot about it. And Dave has since retired. And I think the even crazier part of the story is I think he is now in a relationship with Pasta's mom, which is pretty cool and kind of crazy. Yeah, she's a beautiful, they're a Thai family. And he had just retired, he was single, and she was a widow. So it was pretty cool. So any other questions? No, about that. So does anybody have anything they're working on right now that is they want to share, talk about what's going on?
How does your project look? The one that you started with the found objects at the bottom?
Oh, it's outside. Sorry, it's outside. It's kind of, it has more of that plate, the turquoise on it. I could go get it, but it hasn't been developed too much more. But we did go back out to the desert, and I found more rusty cool bits and glass. And so I'm kind of thinking that, and I'm thinking actually of kind of veering off with maybe more larger chunks of Mexican and maybe Italian smalty and faceting them and adding that to the piece, because I think the plate is starting that I was planning to use, A, may not have enough of it, and B, it needs something else. It needs like a little more zhuzh to it. But yeah, I could bring it in a few minutes and show it to you guys if there's any other questions, just to give you a heads up. Yeah, but I had to move the camera. The cameras usually go straight down to the table to show you guys that, but to do this one, I had to move the camera over here. So I could bring it to you and just put it up to this camera and show it to you.
So I have one. So I'm new to this, but your challenge was sort of right along the line, because I'm interested. I have done a few glass on glass, which is basically a 3-dimensional, which I like, because I'm doing like tea jars. So I'm doing glass on glass. But I started this, I don't know if you can tell, but it's a Christmas tree structure, and there's 3 different sizes. So I started this, and I had asked originally on the one of the Facebook pages on how to, it's what do you call it? It's styrofoam.
Yeah.
And so I went ahead and did the structure that you had. I didn't do the slurry though, which I think I could have done, but I don't have any idea how to pursue this. I just had this idea because I had these things, you know, and I thought, oh, I'll try something. So that's why I asked. I'm not even sure.
Well, it should be like, if it's, to me, it sounds like you're getting like just overwhelmed in design mode.
Yeah.
With something like that, you could do something as simple as either, this is just an example, like Joan Schwartz's orbs, just work in rows, do different rows, and just think about, because the rows you got started is sort of like a good, you know, launching for that, and then find more tessera that sort of goes with it, or you know, a contrasting color, whatever that would be, an orange or something like that, or a yellow, and just do another row and another row instead of trying to be like, oh, this huge design I've got to think of, same with Jennifer Coons's latest course, which is the Mosaic for Any Climate. She did a sphere and she just did a row and then another row and another row. And then she did some of her precision cutting glass on top. But I think with that type of a thing, you'll be really happy because you've already started. It looks like it's proportionately correct, which is great. You've done the substrate, which is hard. And so now you get to have the fun part. So it's more about making sure you have enough inventory of what you like. That's kind of like fun stuff you could get at Mosaic Trader USA, Maryland Mosaics, or Wits End, and just get those fun bits that maybe don't have to be cut. I mean, not everything has to be cut and perfect. I think we all get a little overwhelmed by what's right, what's wrong, what should we be doing on Demento, what's on Demento, how do we cut stuff, Heimer and Hardy. So sometimes you just got to have fun and just make it feel good. But that's a great idea. And if you have 3 of them, they're going to stand out and it's be a great, decoration for your home or however you want to do it.
Thanks. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes.
So a few years ago, I mosaicked a frog, and it was some kind of composite that I had gotten at some store a long time ago. And when I went to grout it, nothing looked right. No color looked right, nothing looked right. And when I looked at it the other day, I refused not to do something with it. When I looked at it the other day, I realized that my grout lines, they weren't huge, but they're too big.
Uh-huh.
Is there any way to fix that?
I mean, not without tearing the whole thing apart. No.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, you can't, a grout is cement, and once it has cured, it's a rock, as you know. So there's no way to, unless you tried to put something, glue something over it, but then that's going to probably look, odd. So I can't imagine without tearing something up how to, and it's probably also maybe just something you see and not everybody else sees. As far as, usually most people look at the whole thing. They're like, oh, wow, that's cool. It's a frog. They don't look at, wow, that line looks too thick or, whatever. It's usually, we're so, critical with our own eye to all of our own pieces that we don't really see it through other people's view.
I was just wondering if there was anything I could put in the grout lines, like small pieces of.
Oh, so wait, you haven't grouted it yet?
It's grouted.
Oh, it is grouted.
Yeah.
Well, then I don't know where pieces would fit in if it's already
Yeah.
grouted. Like I said, it's concrete, so I don't think you can put anything in between it.
Okay.
The only thing I could say, but I'm not sure it would even adhere, would be to put things on top of the grout. But then you're dealing with a very exposed tessera that won't easily stay stuck to grout.
Could she do another layer of, I don't know how big the structure is, but is it possible to cover over? Like basically just make another layer on top of it. Use your just like this, how we did these, would you use the mesh and the concrete and just make it
Start
layer
all
bigger.
over again.
Yeah, start all over again.
Uh-huh.
I have never done that, so I will not advise, but I highly recommend you try it. If you don't like it, it is.
I
It's
don't like it now. So, yeah,
You don't like it now.
I don't like the way it looks now.
Yeah, so then maybe it's something that you could add mesh and thin set to it and make that, if it's smooth enough, just cover up all the mosaic, start with another fresh, coat of thin set, and now mosaic it again.
Okay.
I've never heard of it, but I don't know why it couldn't possibly work.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah. Anybody else? Questions? Beverly, what are you working on?
Well, I've just been painting inside my house. I'm finally done. But I just took the course where you're doing the Animento. And so I have my Hardy, I have everything I need. In fact, I just bought, a bunch of this stone
Yep.
so that's what I'm going to work on this weekend, just working in lines. But I do have a question. So, I don't want to butcher this lady's name. She's from Japan, but she lives in Italy, and she does trees, and they're always like these deep green trees made out of marble. But she always has like lines through them, the spacing. So I was wondering, but there's nothing there, it looks like, but thin set, totally even. Like how, I wonder if she waits till the thin set is almost set up and maybe puts wire in there. You think?
I would
Like,
have to
if-
see it. I don't know. I'd have to see I've never heard of her, but I'd be curious. I mean, Annabella maybe has. So if you want to post it on Foundations and Fundamentals, her work, and, tag Annabella too, because she might know more about this artist and what you're referring to.
It looks so simple. But you know how Japanese art is. They make it look so simple. So therefore, it's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. Exactly. So yeah, no, I've not heard of it, but I would be curious too. So yeah, if you could post it and tag Annabella and or me, I'll see it anyway. That would be really interesting to see what her process. It's always fun to try and reverse engineer a little bit or try and figure out what they're doing. But
Right. Well, if you're going to learn, you might as well learn for someone you really like. And it's not like I could copy her anyway. I just wanted to figure out how, because maybe I could figure out how I could do a tree like that or something. She's got like a face, and then it's a tree, and then all through it's like wind. I think it's supposed to be wind. So the spacing is the wind, and it's perfectly put in. She's got to use something. She's got to use some kind of template. I just can't figure it out. I will post that today.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, no, it's always good to be inspired by other people's art. Not that you need to copy it, but we always are inspired by what other people are doing. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So, and Martha, what are you working on?
So probably I'm not sure if it's, so the last few weeks I've kind of had a bunch of other life stuff happening, so I haven't really been doing too much, but what I decided to do going forward is actually dedicate some time for studio time, because I took the last SAMA online course or day, I guess I'll say. And a lot of the same thing came up, that people were saying you have to get into the studio, you have to sort of dedicate time, where I was kind of sticking my time in around other stuff.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going to try and do going forward, so I actually complete something.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's hard. It's hard, especially when, even for me, if it's not a commission that's got somebody else's, timeline and dollars on it, to get in and really make time to create is really challenging. And I mean, I know I have a full-time job, but it's still, you need that to feel that fulfillment. And it is good. I mean, I'm a firm believer in to-do lists, and I have to keep a daily book of what's going on every week. But I think it's really helpful to put it on your daily list for 2 hours on Mondays or whatever, that you have time, because it's always easy to fill your time with other things to do. And it's once you're in there that you're like, oh, I don't want to leave now. Like I've had times where like it's 7 o'clock at night, I'm like, shit, I gotta go make dinner. Sorry, it's gonna be leftovers or frozen something, because I'm staying in here working. And it just happens, and you just kind of get in your zone, and it's like, oh well. So I highly recommend the zone. And Lisa, what are you working on? Oh, you're still
I'm
muted.
still working, yeah. I'm 101. I need to go and use a drill press and cut some pink glass so I can have planets of different colors, because there's just a few glass rods, colors in those I've been able to purchase. and
Uh-huh.
knit those. So for colors, and I want to incorporate a turquoise because I went to an art show and bought two really cool abstract pieces that have the same colors as this piece does. And I really want to pull out that turquoisey green. I'm trying to figure out where to put it in this piece. Maybe next to some pink, because there's a lot of pink I need to put in now.
Oh,
So
awesome.
it's gonna
Well,
be interesting.
Yeah, no, and your cuts look really good. That's what,
Thank you.
once you learn those cuts from Yulia or whoever else teaches them, it feels very gratifying, I think, to have like a whole pile of them and really watch them just start to nest in each other. And it can be feathers, it can be what she's doing. It can become so many different things once you learn how to really get those cuts right and they do what they're supposed to do and create that movement.
And
Do
she's so
you
right
have
about.
one of the courses on cuts?
She does. So Yulia Hananson has two with us. One is her flower mosaic course, and then one is called Layered. And both of them, she teaches her, it's like her signature technique, but other people, obviously, she didn't invent it, but she's very good at making these cuts that look like a bird, and then they just nest into each other. And once you've learned this technique from her, and she teaches you how to do the reverse method with the flower, and then she teaches another method with the layered, that you can create so much other stuff once you get the cutting down with the way she does it with the stained glass and the nippers. I have a student that's making birds and other things because that creates the flow of that look, or I'm not sure how to else describe it, but yeah, check her out. Yulia, it's Yulia Hananson. And she's got, like I said, two courses at Mosaic Arts Online, and they're both excellent. She's an excellent teacher and has got an incredible portfolio of her personal work as well. She's very talented. Anybody else taking her course here? Yeah, Martha and Beverly, yeah. So you guys can attest more as students than I.
It
So,
really helps to have the right glass too. 'Cause
Yeah.
she's right about, I've got some off-white that I was trying to cut, and it's really, really rough. And
Yeah.
other glass is so much easier. So
Yeah, I
learning.
mean, the Spectrum glass, or whatever it's called now, Oceanside, is really the easiest glass to cut with. And I know there's a lot of issues right now with supply chains and different stuff as far as getting things and it becoming more challenging. It's happening all over the world, not just with glass, and Wits End and all these guys are really struggling to get stuff off of boats. And we know that story. We don't need to go on with that here. So
The next
Roxanne,
challenge.
yeah, it totally does. Yes, it's okay. Roxanne, what are you working on? Right, you're muted. You're muted. You're still muted. There you are.
How's that? Okay,
Mhm.
yeah. So I'm working on a bunch of stuff because I'm kind of new and we had a heat wave here. I'm in Washington State, signed up for a whole bunch of classes. I got so excited and then I just got overwhelmed,
Right.
which is easy to do. But, what I've been doing for about 2 years is just the mosaic flower pots,
Uh-huh.
and, pretty simple, but I found an outlet to sell them and people were really loving them. And so I had to keep making more and more. It became kind of like, and then there were supply chain issues. I can't
Mhm.
even get the terracotta pots at Home Depot that I was using.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. And I thought, but I don't want to keep doing this anyway. I want to expand my
Yeah.
mosaicing abilities. So it's been kind of a good thing in a way.
Yeah,
And,
that's a total message.
Yeah, it was great. And I know some people struggle with how to sell their art. And for
Mhm.
me, I got lucky. During COVID, there's this rural county not far from us, and they were having outdoor markets with
Mhm.
free tables. So all you had to do was show up and do it.
Wow.
And happened to be next door to a plant nursery. So now I've teamed up with that nursery and they're an outlet for my pots. And so I don't have to take my stuff around to the markets anymore. When I make a few, I just take them there. So making pots is still my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I kind of went back to that a little bit when I became overwhelmed. But
Uh-huh.
I did your Mexican blanket, and that came out really well. And I was like, oh, I'm so good at this, you know. So then I did another one and it totally sucked. And I
Sometimes
was
they
like,
do,
okay,
sometimes they
you know,
don't. Yeah.
Hebrews. So, and I tried a bunch of different things. I bought the grout colorants, or
Uh-huh.
the, you know, the mortar colorants and stuff. And I tried doing stuff without having to grout it, you know, and I did like Rachel Davies and, you know, Rachel
Mhm,
Sager and stuff, and
mhm.
just so much wonderful stuff coming at me. And I'm still kind of filtering it, but you know, I
Sure.
tried it like some small pieces, little endamento, a little bit of slate here and
Yeah.
there, and it's been really fun. And then after I did all of that, you know, a few things, and I tried a found objects thing, and it went totally, who knows what, you know, it was like totally not what it started out to be, which happens so often.
Right.
But I kind of went back then to making a few pots in my comfort zone. And I found out that something seeped in to me from all that other stuff, that actually now my pots are better than they were
Oh,
before, even though it wasn't the same thing. And another fun thing about making the pots is that even though there's still supply chain issues, and a lot of the ceramic, like pre-cut shapes that I was buying are not available anymore.
mhm.
Um, but if you have trouble cutting stuff, you know, I see some people say, I just can't cut. You can just get the beautiful little glass squares or the ceramic pieces, and you can make flowers and quite a bit of stuff without having to cut. But I really want to cut. And I got a hammer and Hardy, you know, and I just don't have the right setup yet, but I'm working on that.
Oh,
So
that's awesome.
I've got a ton of stuff going on.
That's great. Do you seal your terracotta pots on the inside?
I do not, and I know you say that we should, but the reason I don't is because I live where it can freeze and everything. And I've heard that usually if you use sealant, you kind of have to reapply it after a while and everything. I just tell people to bring stuff inside in the winter time, but my things, I soak them in water, you know, and then I use thin set to stick the pieces on. I haven't had any problems, and, you know, then I grout over them. The one thing I recently had a big problem with that has never happened to me before is
Mhm.
that the plant nursery that was carrying my stuff, I made a couple of bird baths in the big plant saucers, the terracotta saucers, and they looked so cute out there. And they had them out, you know, on their display tables with water in them and everything, which they hold water and that's what they're meant to do. But they left them out there, and they dried out, and they left this like big bathtub ring of white efflorescent stuff on there. And they're like, oh, we feel so bad. Look what happened. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll take them back. I've tried scrubbing it off. It doesn't
It's
scrub off. So
it's calcification.
yeah.
It's not the efflorescence, it's the calcification. Efflorescence comes from the out. It's usually the porosity or the concrete comes through
Mhm.
through the grout. I was explaining that in the last live that I did a
Oh,
mosaic commission at
oh, your
a,
fountain.
yeah, so you saw
I
that.
was
So
thinking of
that's
that.
what that is. It's
So that was from the
calcification.
water minerals.
The minute,
Okay.
exactly. It's the water minerals, and they will destroy, they just eat away.
Yeah.
And Santa Barbara has really hard water. So we
Mhm.
have it like almost instantly. So another, see you later, Lori. Thanks for being here. So another fountain that I did, same thing, and they just started using RO water, DI water, and it helps. So
Mhm.
you can always tell people that when they're going to, you know, buy your things, to use the DI water for it. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. Even if it's grouted with epoxy, it's going to
Oh,
eat away at it. All the
yeah.
minerals are going to
Good
do
to
that.
know, because I've had water in my things where I live, and they live about 40 minutes away, but they just must have a totally different water source with
Mhm.
a lot more minerally water or something. I'd never
Exactly.
seen that happen before, and I was kind of like appalled, and I felt so bad, you know, and they're
Yeah.
like, we can't sell this. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I guess that's what it was.
Well, and you just have to be careful with pots that I had it back in 2006 or 7 when I first moved back up to Santa Barbara. We did a lot of flower pots for my friend's garden store, and she loved them and they came out great. And I was sealing the inside of them because if water does go through the terracotta, then it can, possibly make pieces fall off or the grout crack. But what she learned is that it was not giving the plant any way to lose water through the terracotta. So
Yeah.
we stopped doing it because I was more afraid that if she sold it and the pieces fell off, that would be a bigger issue. So we just completely stopped doing it. But I can show you this piece because this will give you just a little bit of inspiration. If you haven't seen this, because I sometimes bring it out, this is my first mosaic I ever made.
I
This
love
is
it.
1996. And I guess I loved grout a lot. So it's more grout than anything else, but it has withstood. It just sits now as our scissors holder here in the studio. But it's a really special piece to me because it was literally made the first time I ever made a mosaic.
Those flower pots are a really great way to get started.
They
And
are.
I really wanted to move beyond it, but people really loved my pots so much and they were just, buying them right and left, which was great.
Yeah.
And I went around to these craft markets. Really, nobody else was doing anything like it.
Yeah.
And I did a few rocks with hearts on them and stuff. People loved all of that. And I'm like, yeah, but I really want to do more arty stuff. So I'm getting there, and I'm trying to also not copy other people so much. I'm trying to find whatever my voice is.
Yep.
So working on that.
It all takes time. You've got it. No,
Yeah.
it's just great to be in the mode and doing it. So,
Yeah. And I keep thinking to myself, though, Tammy must never sleep. Because it's like
Tammy
there's something
loves
new
to
all
sleep.
the time.
Tammy
So
loves to sleep.
thank you
but
for
otherwise-
everything.
Oh God, I had no idea that this would become an all-consuming thing, but it's something that Mary and I love so much. And it's really just something we just want to keep building and building and building on. And I can't imagine not doing it. I love being able to serve you guys and share my passion with you. It gets me, going more than just trying to shoot courses and work at the computer. So I do love these meetings with all of you and all the cool stuff that you guys bring, to it, and wherever level that you're at, because I've been there and I do have a bit of experience. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever seen this mistake that happened, but this was a piece that I did in 2000. I was still living, I don't know if I was living in LA. No, I did it when I lived here. So maybe 2006, 2007. If you've ever heard of, what's her last name? Kat, she's a famous tattoo artist, Kat something. And what do you know?
I know who you mean, but I don't remember the last name.
I can't think of her last name right now. Kat, whatever. She had our art gallery in LA, and I was still working in television and down in LA a lot. And I got asked to be one of 100 artists to do a Dias de los Muertos skull. And so I was the only one that did a mosaic. And at the time when she gave us these skulls that are acrylic, but made to look very much like a real skull, because people did all kinds of stuff to it. It was super cool. I decided to use thin set and stained glass because of course, why wouldn't you use thin set and stained glass? And this should have a mosaic on it. This completely released. The thin set just completely released itself in pieces right off of this substrate. So, hindsight's 2020. I would have used a DAP Quick Seal or some kind of silicone adhesive if I ever did it again. Thank God I priced it way too high to sell it because it sat in her gallery for a month and never sold. But learning experience, and those are the things, especially when you're selling stuff, you got to be really, really careful. So, so that's my Kat Von D. That's her name.
Yes.
That was a big one, and it just sits there kind of as that lesson for other people to see. I'm a huge fan of mistakes. Just don't do them on other people's dime. Be very scary. So Mary, you just joined us real quick. Do you have anything to share what you're working on? And the epoxy grout thing that did you get to see that demo?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome.
When did you do that? Was that on there?
Well, here's the issue. I got to get better at, so we now have to put the demos in under 20 just because of the data. It's actually too big a file to keep on Circle, because we thought we would just have them as videos on Circle, but they're too big. So the link has to go back to the Mosaic Arts Online platform for Teachable. But obviously I missed a few where I just should have put the post in the link of what it was. So that's what I did today after you had pointed that out. So all of them are there under demo and under 20, but then it takes you back to the Mosaic Arts Online platform. But if I were you, I would call Laticrete and just ask them if you can color their, Kelly Knickerbocker and I have been over it and we don't think you can, but I'm open to hearing.
Well, I probably am just going to try it anyway, but you don't think you can because of the mix? And we're talking about whether or not you can add a colorant to a SpectraLock pre-mixed epoxy grout, because you don't think it'll mix in well, or because you think you're going to lose bonding?
Oh, it could be a total like integrity issue with the product. And that's the bigger thing, because the tints are made to go with a cementitious product, and there really is no cementitious happening in epoxy grout. There is this aggregate sand-based thing, and then you're using glue or epoxy. So you're not putting so the tint could go in, it could disperse itself kind of weird. It definitely will not, I don't think it will mix itself either way, whether you're using the SpectraLock normal where you mix A, B, and C, or if you're using the pre-mix. But like I said, you can either ask Laticrete or just experiment on something again you're not selling.
Right. It takes 5 minutes to add tint to
No,
one
totally.
I've already got.
Yeah, no,
So
right.
the one thing I want to say that was interesting is that I think that the containers that I bought actually didn't have the instructions on that inside piece.
On the little
Yes,
thing you pull
yes.
out?
Because I'm going, that's weird. I've never seen that before.
Oh,
So I've been watching videos, and mostly the thing that I've noticed with it is that the time that it takes to get a haze is kind of unpredictable. And you do not want that haze to get on there and stay on there, right? You got to break it up.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of odd, whatever they're using now, that all of a sudden you don't need their wash. When I first started using epoxy grout, I was one of their testers back in 2007, and they're like, just use vinegar and some water and that'll take the haze off. And I was like, okay. Then they come out with these little packets and you can just pour that into water, and it's got the initial wash and the final wash. So I don't know if they're different chemicals or what they are, but now all of a sudden this pre-mixed, you don't need anything. And that just seems a little odd to me. So I did use vinegar before I completely finished it. That address sign was something I gave to my best friend.
So I did actually look at what the chemical was inside of their old mix, and it was a citric acid. So I bought a citric acid powder and have actually used that on this.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I do really like it for all of the reasons you mentioned in your video.
No, I got to tell you, I got to say, like, I don't know what it is about the Flex Color Q10 or Q whatever it's called, is a little runnier, and with the SpectraLock it's just a little firmer. And the fact that you can have a pre-mixed thing that lasts 3 years. I asked the guy at the tile store and it's got a 3-year shelf life, which is huge. So yeah, I've always been a epoxy grout fan, and so all of my stuff will always have that on there, especially if it's flat and easy. If it's a found object thing and it's got to be grouted, it's going to be a hot mess, but if it's flat, then it should be pretty easy. So.
And I do tend to do things with different heights, but you do have to, you're going to deal with it. And the only place that I have been able to reliably find Laticrete products is like Floor and Decor.
Mm-hmm. That's a great, if you have a Floor and Decor near you, that is an awesome resource. We don't. I have to drive like an hour and 20 minutes to find a Floor and Decor. So Annabelle is going to be here shooting a course and then teaching live here. So right before I got on with you guys, I had to order online her thin set and her ad mix. So because I ain't driving an hour and 20 minutes for nobody.
And um,
You're breaking up.
black isn't bad. I've a lot, getting black is always hard. Yeah, my internet, we're storming a little bit in the North San Francisco area. Yes.
Oh, it means it's coming here. That's awesome.
Exactly.
So you're saying you can't get black?
No, I said I've used the midnight black of that, and I was okay with it as a black. It's not as black as mixing, with a tint in a white.
Right.
It's not as black as that. That's such a nice black, but
Yep. Yeah. So does anyone else have any questions as we're wrapping up? Yeah, go ahead, Marjorie.
I was wondering if anybody ever used the clear grout. I bought it, I have it. You have to mix it up, but it seems like you have to mix it up in the container that it comes in. And it's an awful lot. I don't know if it stays, if after you use it once and anything's left over, you can't use it again.
I've never heard of, is it clear grout that's epoxy or is it cement?
It's Spectralock.
Oh, no, I've never used that one. But what happens with Spectralock is that you have to remember, again, this is one of those products that it's made for construction. It's not made for us doing little 6x6s or 12x12s. So you have to either learn how to part out part of the epoxies, each A and B, and the powder, if it does come with a powder. Did it come with any kind of powder? So you're just basically grouting with epoxy. That's all that is. I've never done that before, but you can part out stuff from Spectralock. You need to get like a couple of mason jars or some kind of really tight sealing containers that you can put the rest of A and B each into separately, obviously, and then you can part them out, but they don't last. It also will not last that long. So yes, it's frustrating that Spectralock doesn't come in smaller amounts, but neither does Thinset or anything else that we want to use. So we've all got that issue. So any other questions?
well, no, but you had said that this has a 3-year shelf time, and for some reason I had in mind a 1 year, and one of them I've had for about 7 or 8 months, and I keep looking at it going, oh, there's no way this is going to suddenly go in 4 months. It's really holding up as long as I make sure I close it tightly.
Yeah.
But it, yeah, it's something I think, finding someone locally that to share those with. But if it lasts for 3 years,
yeah, so that's what he said when I went to the tile store and bought it, is it had a 3-year shelf life, but regular Thinset, cement grout has a 1-year shelf life, and its integrity will start to go downhill after that. And you could have issues where rocks, it starts to rock up and stuff like that if moisture gets into them and all of that. And then next, I'll figure out how to do it in the next month or so. I did a massive storage. I have 4 storage closets that are about, I don't know, 10 by 6 each one, tall, and then like 4 feet deep. Again, Jerry had to have it his way. This was not a bad idea though. And so I brought in an organizational coach and completely purged out an entire carload of stuff that I was able to donate to a really cool organization here. But I'd love to show you guys the before and the after, because I think a lot of people are asking about how to store their materials. And I know we've brought it up on Foundations and Fundamentals before, but this was more, and there's a reason they're called coaches. I didn't realize that I had serious issues with letting go of packing material. I hate throwing away packing material. And I seriously had, and then there were like 40 bins because we had to get new bins because it had to be pretty and you had to use the, P-Touch, and everything is gorgeous in there now. But 40 bins I could not see going to the dump. I just couldn't do it. I was like, no way. So we literally put them out on the curb and put free. And I think there was like 5 left when we were done. So, it's a big deal to collect as much stuff as we collect, and then still keep it organized and really let go of things when they're not necessary anymore, and know that my 19-year-old nephew can tell me it doesn't matter if it goes to the landfill, it's already happened. And I'm like, all right, sucks to be your generation. So that's basically what happened a couple of weeks ago in a nutshell. Is I did a massive purge, and it was really worth it. And she organized, you'll see all the photos soon, but she organized my stained glass, because my stained glass goes into all these, sectioned off sleeves, and she did them by size and gradated them by color. It's gorgeous. So I'm never touching my stained glass again, because it's just too pretty. So anyway, so there's a lot still coming. So hopefully you guys can, I know Lori's figured out a way to do the 3D challenge. If you guys figure out how to do the 3D challenge in the next week and change, great. If not, we'll move on to something else. I'll have the demo in 20 out soon. And do you guys have any other thoughts, questions, comments? No? All right, get back to
Super quick question.
Sure.
Do you use the DAP on the back of mirror?
No, you want to use something like Loctite 3X is Mirror Mastic. Otherwise, you want to go to Home Depot or your Lowe's or wherever, and you want to find the one that says Mirror Mastic, unless you don't care if it desilvers, because it will.
Okay.
So yeah, make sure it has Mirror Mastic. Or the other thing you can do, that might be my demo in under 20, is I'll just tell you, is you can shellac the back of mirror, and then it won't, and then it's sealed, and so then it can't desilver. So
Okay.
All right, anybody else have any?
And I
What?
had a similar take as Roxanne, is that I've kind of been awestruck by how much energy and how much you seem to be doing at any one time.
Oh, you guys are too kind, too kind. Well, in 2 hours, I have to be out having drinks with my two best friends. So I do have a life.
Good.
Thank you all so much. I'll see you guys next month. All right. And keep creating.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.